Good morning, friends. This is a nice time to really get connected with all of my industry friends on occasion of Independence Day. Scalevers take this opportunity to welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Vijayendran. I think as expected, quite a few I think nuggets for us to really look at it, and I'll probably wrap it up in my summation. The next topic we move from life is to the new normal at work, and I think we've got somebody who I think displays I think the youth of learning. Can I have the next slide, Kalai? Is our very own Vivek Hattangadi. He actually insisted that I don't call him sir and I call him Vivek. That just tells you that he's not only a perpetual learner but he's a perpetual young learner. And I think this is what inspires people like us to really move ahead in life and keep doing things. 45 years plus of learning experience in the pharmaceutical industry. He's been mentored by legends like the late Professor Chitta Mitra as well as Professor Tarun Gupta. I've been fortunate to meet Professor Tarun Gupta earlier. He's rose from a sales cum delivery boy to head the sales and marketing teams of an Indian transnational pharma company. And I think we somehow see this a lot with people coming up from the really industrious state of Gujarat. I mean, they really come from such humble beginnings that resilience is there in their blood right from the beginning, and this thirst to do better, this thirst to keep setting new landmarks, I think is something that I think Vivek has really got this in him. uh, a young age of 71, he's extremely active, keeps himself extremely busy, and I can see him present in a lot of forums on the LinkedIn. He's really taking it up as a mission to really support the front line. And I think this is something that I really echo with him, that if you can manage the front line, whether they're reps or they're frontline managers or their brand managers, I think we can really start shaping up the industry into a complete powerhouse as we start moving ahead. He's a guest lecturer at various pharma business schools. He's also been an author. I mean, he keeps authoring. He's already written 5 books, and the latest book is inspired. What I can see from the title is quite inspired by Marshall Goldsmith. What made you a mid-level manager will not take you to the C-suite. And I think, are you ready for the big job? This is something that's going to be released, and I'm sure, sir, you've just released a book a month ago, and I'm sure that we are going to see more releases from you. We look forward to the wealth of knowledge that you're going to share in the topic new life at work. Over to you, Vivek, sir.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for all the accolades, which I really don't deserve. We'll come to the slides a little later. Just give me 5 minutes before we come to the slides. Okay. So, what is this new normal all about? If you look at the Oxford English Dictionary, Oxford Dictionary defines new normal as the previously unfamiliar situation now which have become a standard. And that exactly is what new normal is. In fact, for many months, for the last 5 months, we have been seeing the terms upskilling, reimagining, repurposing, and new normal being used in every webinar, that they have almost become a sort of a cliche. But to be frank, new normal to me began when I started my career way back in 1974 on 13th February. I had just been recruited as a medical representative in Wallace, and the first month of training from 13th February onwards, 1974, for 1 month, every day was a new normal for me, because every day I could learn new things. On 13th of March 1974, that was my first day in the field, and many things I learned, and all these years were days of new learning. For example, on the very first day, I learned what new normal means to me. New normal means having patience. Just imagine, out of 9 to 10 hours of working, you have to wait 6 hours only in the doctor's chamber waiting for the call, maybe 2 to 3 hours in commuting from one doctor to the other, and maybe at best 75 minutes during the actual calls. So one thing which I learned and which I'm using that today also is having patience. In those days, I used to commute for work on a bicycle. That again was a new normal to me because I, being a Bombay, I have spent my life in Bombay. I used to travel by trains and local buses, BST buses. But buses in Ahmedabad, very infrequent, local trains not known. So working on bicycle, that was also a new normal for me, a new learning for me. And this continued for about a year till somewhere in 1975, I got an incentive. I also took a loan from Bank of Baroda where I had my salary account, and I purchased a brand new second-hand Lambretta. That again was a new normal for me. Till I had a bicycle, my district manager, or as area managers they called in some companies, my district manager used to reach the point of work on his own. But the day I had my Lambretta, he became my pillion rider. That was a new normal for me, and that was also a new normal for my district manager. And as time progressed, over a period of time, he became a pillion rider, not only on my Lambretta, but also in the calls till the time he was transferred to another place. Another new normal for me began in 1979. Through my incentive money again, I purchased a Kelvinator. And can you today imagine? I just cannot imagine a life without a fridge at home. That is new normal for me. Every day is a life of new normal. But one thing which is lurking in my mind, the new normal about which we are thinking today, the new normal at work, that is bothering me a lot. Will we become a society sans emotions? Will we become a society sans feelings? Will we become a society sans human touch? If that be so, then that is not new normal because we are not progressing. We are actually regressing. We are regressing maybe into the Stone Age or maybe the Ice Age. Every mammal has an emotion, and probably we are regressing into the age of non-mammalian where they had no emotions. Whether a dog or a cat or even an ass, they all have emotions. And in the new normal which I'm envisaging, probably we will become a emotionless society, and that is what I dread to, and that's the thing which is dreading me. There will be no live human interactions, and real live human interactions is all what we want. Live interaction makes us feel a part of something, and live human interaction builds trust. Will we be living in a society where there is no trust? As Simon Sinek says, the humanity of being around with humans. Will it exist? No matter how many emails we send, how many emails we receive, we are still missing the social interaction because, after all, we are social animals. Now, in this new normal which we are talking about, how will it affect our field work? How will it affect the medical representatives, and how it is going to affect the field managers. What exactly is I see? I'm going to explain from the 3 block war, the new normal at 3 block war. Kalai, have you passed on the presentation to me?
Yeah, it is, sir. We can move actually, sir.
I can move now.
Yeah, no, I can do it, sir.
No, I'll do it rather. Just pass on that to me. Ready?
Sir, ready, sir. The presentations are ready, sir. Which slide do you want to cut it? This is
Yeah,
slide.
yeah. Let me start with the same slide. Yeah. Okay, you have a problem. Pardon?
Sir, I don't think you will be able to operate his slides
Okay,
from
okay,
there.
you do it. Do it.
Yeah, so let him do it.
it.
It'll be faster.
Sir, we are doing it actually.
Now let us suppose for a minute you have been invited by Donald Trump to come to USA and you decide to go by US Airways. How will you judge US Airways? The experience you have with the airline is in the hands of the check-in personnel. And these check-in personnel at the counter, they have the power to drive business. If you are happy with the experience, just hold on the Kalai, don't make me hurry. If we are able to, they are the people who are going to drive in business. And if our experience with the check-in counter is bad, probably we'll never fly by US Airways again. Next slide. And then you move on to, you reach Washington and you check into a hotel. How do you judge or how do you rate that hotel? From its decor, from its high ceilings? We will judge that hotel from the reception and the kind of courtesy which is extended by the reception. The experience which you get in the hotel is in the hands of the receptionist. Similarly, on the last day of your visit, you have been invited by George. Next slide. You have been invited by Donald Trump for a good dinner in a beautiful, next slide, in a beautiful restaurant. How will you judge the restaurant? From the beautiful view which you see, or from the services of the waiters? In all these three things, what we are saying, probably the lowest paid personnel, they are responsible for driving business forward. And these are the people who are going to, please, Kalai, only when I tell you move on the slides.
Yeah.
Only when the experience, only, however, we have seen in all these three cases that the lowest paid employees, probably the lowest paid employees, they are the people who can drive business. Now we come to the next slide. Similarly, in our profession, the experience doctors have with a company or the brand is in the hands of the medical representatives, the person you pay the least. They are the people who drive business. But sadly, ask yourself, chhati pe haath rako pucho, do we really have trained medical representatives in the field today? The people who are driving the business, they are not trained. Just imagine if the people at this counter, the airport counter, the hotel counters, they were not trained. What would have been the impression of yours with the hotel or with the airlines? Similarly, when we don't have trained medical representatives, the impression we create about the company is very bad, not only about the industry, but not only about the company, but the entire industry. Because after all, next slide, these are the people who drive business. These are the people who generate prescriptions. And the people who generate prescriptions, if they are not well trained, you can just imagine what the doctors will be thinking about that company. Next slide. Therefore, It is the medical representative, the first line managers, and the brand manager. It's a joint responsibility, and we should have the front line to be very strong. They should be not only competent, but they should also be empowered. What kind of empowerment we are talking about? Are they able to take any decision, even asking somebody else? What is happening in the Indian pharmaceutical today is pooch management. For every small thing, the medical representative, the first line manager, they have to ask somebody up. Why can't we empower them? Why can't we train our first line to such a good extent that they are able to take decisions on their own? This means the kind of training which is being imparted to the front line today, that has to be changed. And this is what I'm looking at, new normal at work. Next slide. The three block war, the new normal at work, which is what I'm discussed, and I think I'll make my feelings very clear with you. Yeah, next slide. Have you heard about General Charles Krulak? He was an American general, and he was the head of the Marine forces over there. And he wrote in an article sometime back, the future of an organization is in the hands of the privates, not the generals back home. The future of an organization is in the hands of the strategic jawans, not the generals at the headquarters. Next slide. Next slide. And our strategic jawans today are trained on the three block warfare. The strategic jawans of the Indian Army, of the Indian Armed Forces, they are trained on the three block of war: full military operations, humanitarian aid, and peacekeeping. And what exactly do I mean by this? I'll show you in the next slide. Next slide. Let us take the case of Srinagar city. Lal Chowk in Srinagar city is the hotbed of all terrorist activity. And whenever there is a terrorist activity, you have military action. Military action at Lal Chowk, fighting the terrorists. And at the same time, they also have to render humanitarian aid at the hospitals nearby. They have to see that the hospitals are protected. They're also responsible for keeping peace in the entire city of Srinagar. This is what I call as the three block war. I'll give you another example in my next slide. Next slide, yeah. What happened in Bombay on 26/11/2008? The terrorist attack. Our security forces, our armed forces. This is a very famous scene of those days, the Taj Hotel burning. And our strategic jawans there, they had to render full military action in South Bombay. South Bombay has a lot of hospitals: Bombay Hospital, JJ Hospital, Jaslok Hospital, British Candy Hospital, Kambala Hill Hospital. They had also to see that all the people who were injured, they also had to protect the patients who are in these hospitals. They were also rendering humanitarian aid. And the rest of the Bombay city, they were on a peacekeeping spree. Next slide. And when we look at our field people today, the new normal at work, or medical representatives are fighting a marketing war in hostile conditions. Have they been trained for that? Next slide. No, the earlier slide, yeah. Today, the same South Bombay which we had where the military was fighting, the armed forces are fighting the terrorists or medical representatives, they too have to fight that war, calling on doctors and pharmacists in hostile conditions, warning of external competition, and peacekeeping, something like patient centric. Next slide. What we need today is of strategic advance. Our medical representatives today need to be trained on calling the doctors and pharmacists in hostile conditions. They have to spend that time in patient-centric marketing, because patient-centric marketing is going to be the model of marketing, no longer transactional marketing or no more going and detailing to the doctor in the doctor's chamber. We will have to spend a lot of time on patient-centric marketing, and we'll also have to develop the digital skills of our medical representatives. They need to be digitally intelligent in this new normal at work, in the C-suite and our training departments. Are they paying attention to that? Can I have the next slide? For the full-scale military operation, we need to train our people on being mentally tough, being resilient, and having a lot of perseverance. It is no joke to call on the medical stores as well as the doctors these days. It's a really, really tough job. Everywhere we go, they get a kick on the back. Therefore, we need to teach them to be mentally tough. And that is one training which only probably the psychologists can help them. No training manager be able to do that. We need them to be resilient. Next slide. No, the early one. Therefore, patient-centric marketing is what we need to look at in the new normal at work. Next slide. And for that, we require people with high digital intelligence. We need them to be knowledge workers, no longer prescription askers. No more, sir, I want one prescription per day. No more, please prescribe my product. From that, we have to change them to knowledge worker. The role of the medical representative, the role of the frontline managers, it has to keep on evolving. Next slide. Are we doing anything to encourage discretionary efforts? Are we doing anything to empower our frontline? And to me, the answer today is no. Go to the next slide. I'm reminded of a story from the Second World War. I'm relating to this to empowerment which is required for our frontline people to fight the three-block war. This is a real story in the Second World War, which is always being taught in the National Defense Academy. France was occupied by the Germans, and the Germans wanted to occupy Paris, and for which they had to cross the river Seine. But the commanding officer predicted that probably all the bridges on the river Seine going towards Paris would have been blown off. So he issued an order, capture the home banks of the river Seine. And within a day or two, the home banks were captured. And we had a lot of troops on the bridges. And in one of the bridge, which was led by a colonel, a young second lieutenant, he observed that the bridge was intact, the bridge was not blown. So he approached the commanding officer, the field officer, the colonel, and said, "Sir, this bridge is intact. Can I cross to the other side?" The colonel gave a hearty laugh. "My dear friends, you're still a second lieutenant. I'm a colonel with 20 years of experience. That is the difference between somebody with 2 years of experience and 20 years of experience. See this order from the commanding officer. It says that capture only the home bank. How can I allow you to cross the bridge?" When this information reached headquarters, this colonel was court-martialed. This colonel was court-martialed. Why was he court-martialed? For obeying the orders. Listen to me very carefully. Why was he court-martialed? He was court-martialed for obeying the orders. And Hitler, in his orders, said, "I have not made you a field officer, I have not made you a colonel for not knowing when to disregard the orders from the headquarters." This is the kind of empowerment which Hitler had given to the people at the ground root level. And this is the kind of empowerment which I foresee, or which I would like to have on the front line. Let them take decisions, and only then they will be able to fight that three-block war. Next slide. So my final take on this: empower the front line, prepare for the three-block war, and transit into patient centricity. That will be the new normal at work in the coming days. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I mean, as expected, I mean, straight from the heart, and I think straight that, touches, there are a few wonderful myths that you busted in terms of new normal. I will take it up in the last segment as I finish. Moving over to the last lecture, where we have, something that's very interesting. I mean, all these are really intertwined with life and work. It has a direct impact on business.